The president of the Times Square Business Improvement District, Tim Tompkins, in this historical background, recalls that Times Square, as it's called today, bore a different name originally.
This year we're actually celebrating the centennial of Times Square because it was 100 years ago this April that what was called Longacre Square was renamed Times Square, and it was named that after the New York Times.
For some, Times Square is not merely a tourist or commercial attraction. It symbolizes life. It is a means of livelihood, the beginning of the American dream, and a small bite of the all-too-known Big Apple. Street vending is trade, and survival is the game. For these Chinese immigrants, painting an art is just another hobby. For as low as $15 you can have a portrait of yourself done, and all in no time. And with bargaining power allowed, I got a deal for about $10. Behind the glamour of Times Square is the grim nature of the crimes that take place here.
With over 1,000 guests in attendance tonight, the Leon H. Sullivan Foundation honored President Olusegun Obasanjo of Nigeria, who's also currently serving as the chairman of the Africa Union. The highlight of the evening was a conversation amongst African leaders, including people like Dr. Andrew Young, the former Canadian Prime Minister, and the president of the World Bank.
In July 1999, on a single night, 46 people in Tulia, Texas, including 40 African Americans, were arrested on drug charges based on the sole testimony of a lone undercover narcotics agent who had a history of racial prejudice. They were duly convicted and sentenced. The event attracted top African American politicians, including the Reverend Al Sharpton, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Democratic Party nominee to the U.S. Senate, Barack Obama, and other legislative and community leaders. Members of the International Diplomatic Corps, activists, sports and Hollywood personalities also graced the occasion. Addressing the caucus, the U.S. Democratic presidential nominee, John Kerry, stressed the importance of the black vote in the upcoming elections.
Why the choice of President Obasanjo? I know he's serving as the current chairman of the African Union and the role he plays at NIPAD, but why the choice of President Obasanjo for this honor tonight? The 44th anniversary of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, celebrated this year at the Nigerian Embassy in Washington, D.C. Right behind me, you can see Professor George Obiozo, who's currently serving as Nigeria's ambassador to the United States, welcoming friends of Nigeria to the reception.
We're dancing.
You're dancing? What are you dancing to?
We're dancing Adwa.
Really? Is that the traditional Ghanaian dance?
Mm-hmm.
In a backstage chat with AIT Newsday, Angelique Kidjo describes her musical influence, especially on the youths in Africa.
Keep Africa in my heart and my soul and give it all over the world, and hope it resonates back in Africa and in the youth. It can have repercussion for them to be proud of who they are and of their roots and take it from there.
With the promise of a friendlier and more approachable NASA, small and minority business owners as well as women can now look forward to increased joint ventures with boundless growth potential. Reporting from the NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C., Oyiza Adaba, AIT.
Our tour guide, Marian Ageri from Ghana, showed us around the main council chamber, which is a gift from Norway. The Economic and Social Council meeting room, decorated by Sweden, and the General Assembly Hall, where all member states meet. There are also gift centers and shops. The United Nations tour guide is as important a facet of the UN as the historical pieces they educate the public about. The guides, seen as the ambassadors to the public, represent 30 countries and give tours in 20 different languages.
I'm quite happy to know what the good work they're doing about this deadly disease. Having suffered alongside with my late brother who died from cancer a few years ago here in the United States. And I'm very happy and I'm impressed, and I will always remember them in my prayers.
on how African governments are responding to the peer review mechanism set up by the Africa Union. Professor Gambari expressed his satisfaction with the initiative, stating that 5 other countries recently joined the project, bringing the total number to 23.
The most important step they have taken is that many African countries now know it cannot be business as usual.
It's delicious. It doesn't quite have that moi taste. It has a sweeter taste. And with the blackberry sauce on it, makes it a whole lot different. But I think I love it. I love it. Miss, I love the kukunu.
Stay tuned as we wait to talk to Mr. Matambo.
Channel 18. Yeah, you know what?
So, can I do after the game?
Yeah, we'll do it after.
I came in a second. Boss got the problem.
Here,
What over 5 minutes? Yeah, then you get some shots. The game, but you don't want to stay.
I do want to stay, but we have to, unfortunately, we have to.
I just wanted to basically know if Joan Higginbottom is one of the 6 African-American active space explorers preparing to go on her next mission. While encouraging black youth especially to develop more interest in NASA, she narrates her experiences in getting selected.
I actually went through the process twice, which is not uncommon. People go through several times. If you are lucky enough and blessed enough to be picked up the first time, that's a really wonderful thing.
Many movies such as The Fisher King, Ghostbusters, and Made in Manhattan were shot in Central Park, and this has become one of America's national historic landmarks. Central Park was built in a true democratic spirit to bring people of all ages, color, and creed together. And that spirit is still seen today, 150 years after it came into being. In the city of Chicago, the day coincided with one of the city's traditions called the Taste of Chicago. This is where people come together to sample various dishes from different parts of the world. Delivering a message of hope this evening, Songhai Charities have demonstrated that small communities such as theirs living in the diaspora can make a difference and effect the desired changes that is so desperately needed in Africa. Reporting from Edison, New Jersey, Oyiza Adaba, AIT. Some of the delegates spoke with AIT Newsday on their hopes for President Bush's chances in the next elections.
He'll win.
100%.
100%.
According to the poll, he's getting better, so I think he'll do well.
Overwhelming. That's it.
He's going to win in a landslide.
100% behind.
Positive.
I think the chances for George W. Bush are outstanding. He will be re-elected again.
Reacting to the protests on the outside, the delegates had this to say.
What protest? There's no protest. Those guys have no idea what they're protesting for.
I'm horrified. I'm disappointed.
They're invisible as far as I'm concerned.
President Bush is expected to formally accept his nomination on Thursday night. Wycliffe, a native of Haiti who was recently in Nigeria, told AIT Newsday about his visit.
What's up, Africa, Nigeria? I miss you. I was leaving Nigeria. I was crying. I love Nigeria.
When are you going back?
I'm going to go back soon.
Okay.
Shout out to all my Nigerian people.
The West Indian Day Parade coincides with America's Labor Day, which is usually held on the first Monday in September.
This evening has been a celebration of the remarkable achievements of the African American Institute, particularly in the area of education in Africa. It is a gathering where the American government and businesses have come together to recognize African leaders. From the United Nations headquarters in New York, Oyiza Adaba, AIT.
This quintessential New York City event attracted over 50,000 spectators at Times Square. From Times Square, the crossroads of the world, Oyiza Adaba, AIT.